Funding for this edition of Think Tank with Steve Adubato has been provided by Gibbons PC. With 200 attorneys, Gibbons is a full-service law firm focused on handling major matters for mid-market companies and mid-market matters for Fortune 500 companies. Hackensack Meridian Health. Keep getting better. Seton Hall University. Come see what great minds can do. The New Jersey Education Association. Wells Fargo. NJM Insurance Group, serving New Jersey's drivers, homeowners, and business owners for more than 100 years. International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 825. Choose New Jersey. Our mission is attracting companies to the Garden State. And by IBEW Local 102, lighting the path, leading the way. Promotional support provided by Insider NJ and by ROI-NJ. Informing and connecting businesses in New Jersey.
Hi, I'm Steve Adubato. This is Think Tank. We've been bringing in members of the congressional delegation in New Jersey, as well as our two United States senators, talk about national issues and their impact on the state. We have United States Congressman Tom Malinowski, the 7th Congressional District, which is where?
It is Short Hills, Westfield, Cranford.
You're not doing every town, right?
There's 75, I could.
Okay, what counties?
The suburban towns of Union County, and then go all the way west through Somerset County, Hunterdon County, Phillipsburg, and Warren County. It's one of the biggest districts by geographic area in New Jersey, mostly suburban, rural, diverse, interesting. Highly contested. Highly
contested. There's going to be an interesting race in 2020 that the congressman will be involved in. We'll have his Republican opponent on as well. But this is not a political show. I just said to the congressman, we do policy. We don't do politics. That being said, you came into this position of running in 2018 and getting elected. You served in federal government before.
Yes,
what
I did.
Role?
I was an assistant secretary of state in the Obama administration in charge of our global human rights policies. Before that, I served in the Clinton administration. I was his chief foreign policy speechwriter, riding around with him all around the world, helping him speak for America.
Congressman, what's your greatest concern about the Trump administration's handling of intelligence, national security issues?
My greatest concern is that the president is using his powers to defend our country to protect himself. He's appointing loyalists who will implement his tweets rather than our national interests.
Doesn't he have that right as president?
He has the right to appoint whoever he wants, absolutely. But I have a right to be concerned about the fact that, for example, he fired his director of national intelligence for telling the Congress the truth about Russian interference.
Joe McGuire.
That's right. The president should be angry at Russia for interfering in our elections, not angry at his people for telling the Congress that that's happening.
How real is the Russia concern, or concern about Russia in 2020 and their involvement once again in presidential, if not congressional, Senate races? Go ahead.
It's very real. And, you know, we have a concern about hacking the election. And one of the good things we have done in the House of Representatives is increase the funding for states, including New Jersey, to secure our election machinery. But I'm also worried about Russians and others hacking our brains. It's the propaganda. It's the weaponization of social media to divide Americans against each other. And that's what we have to be vigilant against.
Before we talk about transportation, a huge issue, infrastructure, a huge issue in the New York, New Jersey region. Biggest lesson or takeaway from the impeachment hearings around the president, where the House voted to impeach and the Senate voted to acquit?
Well, I was struck in the end that a number of Republican senators said that the House proved its case. At the beginning, you remember they were saying, oh, there's no quid pro quo. Maybe he was just trying to fight corruption in Ukraine. In the end, senators like Lamar Alexander and others, Susan Collins, Marco Rubio, they said, yeah, you know what, he did it.
But only one voted to not acquit, and that was Mitt Romney.
Mitt Romney, yeah. And by the way, the last Republican to win my congressional district was Mitt Romney.
Is that right?
I think it's important. You know, Adam Schiff said something very important in one of his closing speeches. He said that one vote can be a majority. And I think Mitt Romney, being the first senator in American history to vote to convict a president of his party. Very, very important. Most of the, you know, we're not talking too much about politics here, but I imagine
politics and policy connected.
Can they connect? There are a lot of Republicans in the Congress. There may be some Republicans running for Congress this year who I am 100% certain agree with Mitt Romney. They're just too cowardly to say so.
Do this 30 seconds or so on the transportation infrastructure issue. Is it an issue or multiple issues?
It's a huge issue. It's one issue that I hope we're going to be able to make progress on this year. We just unveiled a blueprint for a major national infrastructure bill in the House of Representatives. The Senate wants to do an infrastructure bill as well. My number one priority—
Mitch McConnell's on board here?
The Senate has been marking up a transportation bill. We have to, every 5 years, reauthorize our Surface Transportation Act. My number one priority, my number two priority, my number three priority is the Gateway project.
Explain to folks that keep hearing about Gateway. What is it? Why does it matter so much to our region?
Our region depends on transportation being linked to New York City, especially the train connection. The infrastructure between Newark and Penn Station, including the Hudson River Tunnel and the Portal Bridge, was built in 1910 during the presidency of William Howard Taft. It has very little life left in it. It's the major source of delays for our trains. Desperately needs to be replaced. Federal government is supposed to pay for half of it. Trump has said no. And we've been fighting that with some success over the last year.
Shift gears. By the way, we're talking to United States Congressman Tom Malinowski from the 7th Congressional District. Healthcare, huge issue. We've done many panels here on Think Tank. Check out our website. You'll see on the screen right now to see those conversations. The president and his administration doing what as it relates to the Affordable Care Act, A, and B, jump into pharmaceutical drug costs?
So the president and the administration are in court, in federal court, as we speak, trying to do what they failed to do in the Congress.
Is that the Texas case?
To repeal the Affordable Care Act, or to strike it down.
What does that have to do with Texas?
It's complicated, but Texas basically sued to strike down the Affordable Care Act.
So we go to the—
and the administration weighed in on behalf of Texas.
Court. What would the Supreme Court be deciding on? Whether it's constitutional or not?
They would be deciding on whether it's constitutional, because the Republican Congress already got rid of the individual mandate, which was the tax, so to speak, that was part of the Affordable Care Act. There was another Supreme Court decision which upheld.
I complicated things, not the Congressman. I'm sorry about that. But what do New Jerseyans and the folks in our region need to know about what's going on right now?
The bottom line is the administration is trying to basically repeal through the courts the Affordable Care Act with no replacement. President Trump has said, I won't tell you what the replacement is unless you reelect me. That's incredibly irresponsible. The American people rejected that overwhelmingly in the 2018 midterm elections. We need to build upon and improve the Affordable Care Act. I think we can do that by adding a public option, giving every American the freedom to buy into a public system like Medicare. The Trump administration
wants to get rid of it. Medicare for all, or Medicare for those who want it?
For those who want it. I think, look, Americans like freedom, Americans like choice. I don't want to take away people's private health insurance. I want a system where there's a public option competing with private health insurance.
Congressman Tom Malinowski with us right now. Fighting domestic terrorism, go.
2017, for whatever reason, the Trump administration eliminated virtually all of the funding at the Department of Homeland Security to fight domestic terrorism. And domestic terrorism right now is almost entirely white nationalism, white supremacy, neo-Nazi groups responsible for virtually 100% of the deadly terrorist attacks in the United States in the last 2 years. All that funding was cut. I led an effort in the House in the last several months to restore it. In the budget that we passed, President Trump signed, it was fully restored. That's one of the achievements I'm most proud of in my first year in office.
Hopefully we've been putting up the Congressman's website so folks can find out more from his office about what he's involved in. United States Congressman Tom Malinowski from the 7th Congressional District. How many towns again?
75.
And how many counties?
We have 6.
Complex stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you, Congressman. Appreciate it. I'm Steve Adubato. This is Think Tank, and we'll be right back.
To watch more Think Tank with Steve Adubato, find us online and follow us on social media.
We're pleased to welcome Doug Steinhardt, chairman of the Republican State Committee. Good to see you, Doug.
How are you?
I'm doing great. How are the Republicans doing in New Jersey?
We're doing great. My parents had an old saying that good things in life don't just happen. You know, they take ideas and initiative and a little bit of hard work. And above that, kind of the courage to get yourself off the sideline and put yourself in the game and make things happen. And I think for the 2 years that I've been chairman of the state party, we've been making things happen.
We should also make it clear that Mr. Steinhardt is considering a run for the governorship of the great state of New Jersey. We'll be following that. Our colleagues at NJTV News are doing that on a regular basis. Let's do this. What is your biggest concern about Governor Murphy's policies in this state? We're actually doing this program on the day that he's delivering his budget address. Go ahead.
Yeah, Steve, I challenge you to walk down any street in New Jersey and not find a family who hasn't been adversely impacted by the governor's policies. Find me a family that doesn't have a child who can't afford to start a life here, or parents or grandparents who can't afford to retire here. I think the governor's policies are tearing apart New Jersey's families, and they're killing New Jersey's jobs. And I'll tell you where that resonated with me the most. About a year ago this month, my daughter was spending 6 months studying overseas in London. She was studying abroad. And you know, I come from a real small Warren County family. My parents live on the same farm that my sister and I grew up on. We still live in the same neighborhood. We still have Sunday dinners together. And for 6 months, the only way I could communicate with my daughter was on my cell phone. And more New Jersey families, unfortunately, are going through that same dilemma. We lead the nation in the out-migration of businesses and people. More jobs and more residents are leaving New Jersey.
You put that on Governor Murphy?
Yeah, I do. There are more people. It
started with Governor Murphy?
For the last 2 years, the United Van Line study made clear that New Jersey leads the nation in the out-migration of residents. And frankly, I don't want to be one of those parents or grandparents that's got to visit his kids or grandkids on his cell phone because they can't afford to buy a house here or find a job here or start a life here. And I think that's worth fighting for.
I'm going to assume that you're against the millionaire's tax?
Look, the millionaire's tax is just another income tax, and I think New Jersey voters are a lot more sophisticated than that. They understand that every income tax, every tax that comes out of Trenton ultimately comes from the roost in the pockets of the state's middle class.
You know, it's interesting, the New Jersey GOP, the Republicans in the state, I believe at a recent, I'm not sure, it was a summit you had down Atlantic City. You passed some policies around creating a healthier, safer workplace environment for women, correct?
We did.
Talk about that.
Sure. I think at some point, I think the governor needs to look in the mirror and ask, when does the blame come to rest with him? The fact of the matter is that toxic work environments and workplace harassment have plagued him as long as he's been in a leadership role. They go back to his time as the ambassador in Germany, to his Sky Blue football club, his campaign, now his administration. I think it's a complete failure of leadership on the governor's part. So, when the issue of non-disclosures crept up.
Non-disclosure agreements?
Non-disclosure agreements
You're
in the political
those.
place. I'm against non-disclosure agreements that would prevent or preclude workers in a campaign, and particularly women in a campaign, from being able to come forward, or in an administration, from being able to come forward, or in a company, from being able to come forward and discuss the workplace issues that shouldn't otherwise be protected anyway.
It's interesting. You mentioned, Mr. Steinhardt, looking in the mirror. I appreciate your candor and your directness about your sense of the governor. You're a big supporter of Donald Trump.
I've been a supporter of the president's. I haven't hidden that.
Okay, nothing to hide. I'm just asking that. You were there in the rally that he had down in South Jersey for, I believe, the former Democratic congressman, now Republican Congressman, Jeff Van Drew, right?
I sure was. I actually had an opportunity to open earlier in the evening.
Got it.
For the president.
So in an effort to create a healthier workplace environment, to fight against sexual harassment of women, if not worse, sexual assault, the president, not anyone's opinion, it's in the record, has accused women of having fat, ugly faces, repelling voters with their looks, because of their looks, called one woman a crazed, crying lowlife, another woman a dog. He called Carly Fiorina in the presidential race, we all saw it. Who would look at that face? Why would anyone vote for that? Can't imagine it. Called Stormy Daniels, who is in fact a woman that most people know. Adult film actress called her horse face. The list goes on. Not to mention the non-disclosure agreements, not to mention the out-of-court settlements, and a whole range of other arrangements having to do with President Trump and the multiple charges against him from a variety of women, sexual harassment and worse. So here's a question. You made it very clear about how you feel about Governor Murphy. What are your thoughts about my description of the president and his responsibility here?
Sure. Steve, look, the only mirror I'm able to look into every morning is my own. And, my parents raised me to believe that how you treat other people and how hard you work are the two qualities in life that you control, that control where in life
speak in this way. That's not
you go. What do you mean?
No. that language I just mentioned.
Well, which is exactly what I was going to say.
You have no history of that.
And nor have I ever. And that's my point. I get to set the tone at State Party. And I think we've done that. And I intend to live by that and make sure that the folks that work with us live by it as well. That's the venue that I control.
Does it bother you?
Does what bother me?
The language I just described. Those descriptions I described.
Again, what I can say to you is that, I set my standard, and I like to think that the standard I set is one that my folks will be proud of. And that's what motivates me to go out and do what I do every day, to do something that I think that my folks will be proud of, that my kids will be proud of, and that hopefully that the folks that pay attention to what I do in New Jersey will be proud of too.
Last question on this. These descriptions, and we don't have time to go into others, do you think the president is helping the public discourse around important public policy issues, or through the name calling and the things I described here hurting it?
Look, my focus on what the president's been doing are the things that, in my opinion, are kind of helping move.
Do you separate policy from rhetoric?
I do. My focus on what's coming out of Washington is that, the American economy is booming. And I think that, that has masked a lot of the failures that have gone on here within the state of New Jersey. I think that, our focus as a state party going forward is keeping New Jersey's families together, putting New Jersey's families first, focus on the state's unaffordability crisis, and making decisions that prop up the middle class instead of overtax them.
So it's interesting, how much time we have left, staying on policy, staying on issues. If the question of the millionaire's tax, you say off the table, you're not the only one who says that, right? Where would New Jersey get the revenue to support New Jersey Transit, to support pre-K programs, universal pre-K, et cetera, et cetera? Where would we get those revenues?
Well, look, I think you have to start in a bunch of places. It's like anything else. You got to, open up the hood, roll up your sleeves, and get to work. And I think for a long time, the state legislature has failed to do that. I think we've had, governors and legislatures back and forth who fought over power and not policy.
Both parties?
Both parties. But I think there are a bunch of places to start. If you have a chance to look at it, I think you start with public pensions. It's a multifaceted question, but I think you start by moving employees out of defined benefit plans and moving them into defined contribution plans. We got to talk about getting public employees off of the platinum health care to the gold health care that most of us have to live in the private sector.
Is it too generous?
Is it too generous?
The current plan.
The current plan is, I don't know if it's too generous, it's just unrealistic. It's unaffordable. Look, the state needs to live within its means, just like you and I have to make decisions every day in our families. We have to choose what we can do and what we can't do within the resources that we have available to us. The state of New Jersey has been living above its means for far too long, and it simply can't afford to sustain that practice anymore.
If you choose to run for governor, I look forward to continued conversations with you on the substance, on the issues that matter most to people. And thank you very much for joining us.
I appreciate your time, Steve. I really do. Thank you.
Thank you to Doug Steinhardt. I'm Steve Adubato. I'll be right back right after this.
To watch more Think Tank with Steve Adubato, find us online and follow us on social media.
We are honored to be joined by Sergeant First Class Harvey Craig, otherwise known as Sergeant Craig. And he is an Army instructor at Irvington High School and their junior ROTC program, and also the 2016-17 Essex County Teacher of the Year. Sergeant, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you for your support.
So, you work with young people every day, and you have encouraged them to consider the possibility of a military life, in large part because it changed your life?
Correct.
How so?
Certainly. I graduated from Westside High School, and I didn't have many teachers
Because it's in Newark, New Jersey.
In Newark, New Jersey, definitely right. That's right, South Orange Avenue.
Right.
And I really didn't have any of my teachers who spoke to me about college. So the military was going to be my way to get out and go see the world. Did my 20-plus years, came back, doing after my time, found out about JROTC, said I'm coming home. I'm going to come home and use what the Army taught me to help other young people.
I'm a student of leadership. Military leadership fascinates me. Most significant lesson you learned about leadership in the military life is?
Wow. First of all, leaders must provide direction, motivation, and purpose. That's what I tell my cadets every day. Just because you're that leader, the one who's in charge, and think you could scream and yell the most, that doesn't make you a leader. First, you have to give me the mission and the task, tell me the purpose, why am I doing this? Then you got to motivate me, make me want to do it. And give me the direction, give me some good, clear instructions on what I'm going to do. That's what leaders do.
You know, it's fascinating. I'm reading about you. In 2014, a very personal and significant health care scare, you had a heart attack.
Correct.
In the course of your treatment, you're in seeing a cardiologist. Tell everyone what happens during that period.
Well, I had a heart attack in Irvington High School. Just got finished teaching my class.
Wow.
Went in, had my surgery. Come back, I'm seeing my cardiologist, and they call my name. Then I hear a voice in the background say my name, repeat my name after it. I said, wow. So we get up to walk in there. Here comes one of my students, Lorenz Charles, one of my former cadet command sergeant major.
Say it again, who was?
Lorenz Charles.
All right.
Said he was going to be a doctor when they had him in school. And this kid is now in the room with me and my cardiologist talking about my heart. I cried like a baby.
Because?
Here's a kid who I had an opportunity to help. Here's a kid who kept his dream, and he made it. And I just couldn't take it that he was there helping me. And that's what it's all about, leaving that footprint.
You have no idea how many people you left a footprint on with, however you want to describe it, right?
No.
That was just by chance you found that out?
Just by chance.
It meant a lot to you?
It did.
So it's interesting. We have a video, part of the Classroom Close-Up series. We're partners with the New Jersey Education Association to do this wonderful series called Classroom Close-Up. You've learned a little bit about the sergeant, and here's even more important information.
Raiders, fall in! Mission accomplished. Raiders, roll out!
To me, JROTC is a segue from teenage years to your adult years. There are skills that you're going to need as an adult that JROTC can provide for you.
One of the greatest things I can say about JROTC, even though we're an elective, our kids learn so much. So we teach geography. Our kids learn financial literacy. Our kids learn history. We all know about English language, so they learn ELA. Math, they're on math. It's about academics to me, first and foremost.
How many years have you been in Irvington High School?
3 years, sir.
3 years. This is your last year.
Yes, sir.
But this is your first year in JROTC.
Yes, sir.
And this is the first year in high school you have made honor roll.
Yes, sir.
Many students come from homes where there's no structure. Our parents are so busy working, they don't have the time to give the love and attention and guidance to properly prepare their sons and daughters. We feel that vacuum to a great extent.
I know a lot of young people, they might not have role models within their homes or even around them, like their friends might not be doing the right things. But Major Monroe and Sergeant Craig, they never hesitate to set you straight.
It's an amazing program, and it builds character not only within the students in the program, but students throughout the entire building. They are the message for Irvington. You know, you read things in the paper and you hear about things happening in Irvington, but these students, they are Irvington, and they're what Irvington is all about.
Last year, I wasn't in GRTC. I just always used to be in the hallways and skip class and never really paid attention. But now, I improved my study habits by quite a lot, so be average now.
In the senior class, we have probably 5 of our kids that's going to graduate in the top 12. Top 12 is a big thing here in Irvington High School.
Major Monroe and Sergeant Craig, the passion that they exhibit from day to day. It's not, I'm teaching a curriculum. Their goal is to teach students those lifelong skills that's going to help them outside of Irvington High School.
Once the kids begin to understand that we are there for them and we care, they come around. It brings joy to my heart to do the job I do. Yeah.
Coming from an inner city, a lot of folks expect different things, or they expect the worst. My superintendent, she hears me say this all the time. I said, there's diamonds in Irvington. There's diamonds here. We just have to shine those diamonds, let the world see those diamonds shine. And that's what I care for, and that's what I want to do. I want to make them shine.
What are you feeling right now?
Wow, emotional. Emotional. Seeing some of those young kids are in the service. Some of them are in college. Some of them are in SROTC, will be future officers. It just touched me. Just every time I see it, it gets me emotional.
You've seen it more than once?
I see those kids all the time.
No, you've seen that video more than once and it still gets you.
I share it every year to the incoming kids. The incoming freshmen, we share that video to let them know what the program is about.
Young lady in there, her name is Berlin, I think. She said she was watching it go by, and then she became a part of it. What's happening with her?
Well, Berlin Julian is one of my company commanders. She's Bravo company commander. She's doing very well, one of the track athletes in the district, and she just changed her life. She said it herself because of ROTC.
So, to a fair number of people, Sergeant Craig, they think they know what young people in urban areas, by the way, it could be Irvington, it could be Newark, Jersey City, Camden, Trenton, the Bronx, Brooklyn, Bedford-Stuyvesant, in Brooklyn, wherever. We don't know what these young people are capable of, but it's way more than what most people assume.
That's right. That's right.
You expect a lot of them, don't you?
I do.
You're tough with them?
I am.
With love?
I am. The kids call my partner there, you saw Maisie Monroe.
Yeah.
We're like father and mother. So sometimes other kids come at us. One of us is the father, one of us is the mother. But they know that we're real with them. And that's what the kids will say, that we're real.
Sergeant, I started out by saying thank you for your service, and I'll repeat that. But in this moment, more importantly, right now, thank you for what you're doing for these very talented future leaders of tomorrow in the Irvingtons of the world. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for
having me. Stay right there. That's it for this very special edition of Think Tank. Most importantly, make sure you think for yourself. Thank you, Sergeant.
Thanks so much.
Think Tank with Steve Adubato has been a production of the CAUCUS Educational Corporation. Funding has been provided by GIBBONS PC, Hackensack Meridian Health, Seton Hall University, the New Jersey Education Association, Wells Fargo, NJM Insurance Group, International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 825, Choose New Jersey, IBEW Local 102, and by these public-spirited organizations, individuals, and associations committed to informing New Jersey citizens about the important issues facing the Garden State, and by Employers Association of New Jersey. Promotional support provided by Insider NJ and by ROI-NJ.
Perfectly orchestrated, in sync with your life. Hackensack Meridian Health is redefining how health and care come together. Because when everything works together, your world gets better. Hackensack Meridian Health, life years ahead.